Well, I think the biggest thing is that everybody's got to coach to their personality. They've got to coach to, who they want to be. For me, I've found I'm not very effective when I'm angry.
Okay.
So I think that ultimately being positive is just, I feel better about the way that we're all moving in one direction if we set a tone from a coaching staff perspective of positivity. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be criticism. That doesn't mean there's not going to be the need to be demanding and making sure that we're on the right path. But I think it all starts with, and I think you can do that in a constructive way. And I think that you also kind of learn how within your personality, within your preparation of how to go about that. But beyond that, it starts with how invested you are in the person, not the player. So I think that, you can really coach people and be even more constructively critical if you've shown that you're invested in them as a person. Everybody is in the NBA for a reason.
Yeah.
They have a special talent. They have a special ability. Sometimes people get, put in a box of what they can't do instead of focusing on what they can. And, our jobs are to take the 15 guys that are on the team and focus on what they do best and try to help them soar with what they do best. For Evan, it was, we felt like here was a chance, a guy that was hungry. He was a great worker. He had a great attitude, and he was great with the ball. So we gave him the ball, and we played more with him as a point guard or a post player than maybe an off-the-ball shooter. And I think you try to do that with all of your players, and sometimes it works great, and there's a great story like Evan, and sometimes it's not quite as effective.
Like Brad, when I got into coaching, I sought a lot of advice from other coaches, and I went and visited Pete Carroll because I always loved watching Pete's teams play. They had this great joy about them. And so I had a lot of ideas, and Pete said to me, well, how are you going to coach your team? And I said, well, you mean like what offense are we going to? He said, no, I mean, how are you going to coach your team? What's important to you? And I said, well, there's a lot of stuff that's important to me. He said, well, pick 10 principles or ideals that are really important to you, and then narrow it down to 4, and then every day's got to reflect those 4 values. So, those are really our core values, which a lot of companies have core values, but the key, which Pete talked about a lot, was every day has to reflect that. So joy is one of our principles. We try to inject joy and fun and laughter into our practice every day. Competition, we want to keep score of everything. Compassion, Brad is as good at this as anybody. Understanding that the 15th guy on the team and the first guy on the team both have a lot of pressure on them, right? Understand each player's circumstances, understand their life, understand what motivates them, what is challenging for them, and show the compassion to each one of your players and your coaches that eventually it all sort of comes together with, whatever your ideals are. If you can have them reflected in your daily routine, then that becomes the culture that everyone talks about. But it takes the players to really build that culture. I think you have to instill whatever those values are, and then the players take ownership of the team within that culture, and it grows from there, and that's what makes it fun. Every team's different.
Sure.
And our team has had great success the last few years. We obviously have great talent. We can win games playing poorly, but it's not going to do us any good, and it's not fun. Even winning, we're at the point in our evolution as a team, and we know that there's, this is a run that's not going to last forever, but we know that we're good enough to win without playing well. But that's not fun. What's fun is setting your own standard and reaching that standard as often as you can and really playing well. And the other thing I try to sell to our guys, our starters, is that the more you play well, the more I can play, the rookies and the guys who don't get a chance as often, and that's something that I use for motivation as well. Maybe the best thing about the NBA is the parents are not a factor.
Well, not on all teams.
Well,
just ask Lonzo Ball.
Yeah. I've never had a parent call me or text me, and I know that's, if you're a high school coach, that's probably your biggest challenge. But I have friends who coach in high school and college, and I've asked them that question, and Probably the best answer I got was the very beginning of the season. They have a meeting with all the parents, and they lay it out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to play who I think is going to help us win. My door's always open, but don't call me after a game. You're not allowed to practice. Whatever your rules are, you got to lay it out there. But I found as a kid growing up that I developed better and had more fun because my parents never tried to fight a battle for me with a coach, and they hardly said anything. They went to the games and they supported me, but they weren't screaming like keep your eye on the ball. It was just, and that's what I see with youth sports today is parents who are being overzealous, putting more pressure on their kids, and then the dynamic that creates with the coach. And it's really a shame. I'd like to see more parents just let their kid develop and figure it out on its own. It's a much better way to learn.